Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this lovely Thursday afternoon. I'm Ashley Hyman. I'm Director of Marketing here at AgilQuest, and I just want to go over some quick administrative info before we get started. I'd like to direct your attention to the navigation panel to the right of your screen where you'll see two sections, a chat window and a Q&A window. If you don't see these, WebEx is a little bit new. There are some icons that will appear if you hover at the bottom of your screen. I've got those corresponding icons up on the slide right now. All right, if you will enter any questions you have throughout the presentation into the Q&A window, we'll answer them at the end. Additional comments, if you need assistance from the host, please use the chat panel. All right. So now for the reason you've all joined us today. I mentioned this last month's webinar, but we're now a little over a year after the launch of the forum. And while each new release since has enhanced functionality and the value, this final release of 2018 is really truly a transformational one. Not only have we expanded data and reporting and enhance the user and administrative experiences, we also have added a capability that's unique and disruptive to the real estate market and removes barriers to collaboration and expands access to that ever-growing network of space. So I'd like now to introduce you to one of the many brains behind the forum, our VP of Product, Torrance Houlihan. Torrance has been with AgilQuest for almost 20 years. So he's been in the thick of corporate real estate and the rapidly changing market, especially in the last 5 to 10 years as flexibility has become really a requirement rather than a luxury. Torrance is going to start off with some of the user and administrative enhancements included in this latest release and is saving the best for last for those of you who are here to learn about the new sharing capability. I know he has a lot to cover, so I'm going to turn it over to him now. And remember, please enter your questions as we go along, and we'll answer at the end. All right, Torrance.
Thanks so much, Ashley. This is really an exciting time for all of us here at AgilQuest. This is our third major release on the forum this year. And in this release, we are introducing something totally new, not just to AgilQuest, but to the entire market. So we're very, very excited about it. That's not the only thing in this release. We're going to talk about several other improvements and enhancements that are coming along in this release. And Ashley just mentioned that we had a previous webinar about a month ago. And in that, we talked quite a bit about a recent announcement with one of our business partners, Intel, where we talked about both the Intel Market Ready solution for the AgilQuest forum and a little bit about the Intel Unite platform and what we're doing with them there. And so if you missed that and are interested in any information about what we're doing with Intel, please go ahead and reach out to us, and we'll be happy to email you the link to watch that recording of that webinar. There's some very interesting things going on with Intel and AgilQuest, and we're getting ready together for a large announcement in about mid-Q1 next year, too. So there are a couple times I'm going to ask you to watch this space, but that's one of them. There's a big announcement coming down the road there that we're very excited about. So we are going to talk about both AgilQuest Analytics, which is the integrated native business intelligence platform that all of our customers have access to when they license Forum from us. And then, of course, we are going to talk also about the AgilQuest Forum itself, which is the main software product that most people think about when we talk about Forum. But before we do that, we have to take a step back. And we get asked this, I get asked this a lot. AgilQuest, why did you build Forum? You have Onboard. Onboard is widely used all around the world. It's been referred to as the gold standard for managing and measuring space inside of an organization. Why are you building Forum? What are you doing here? And the answer is in some ways kind of simple. And that is more and more of us are working away from our designated workplace every day. And some of the studies that we've seen show that as much as 40 million people are working outside of their office at any given day. And what that told us was Onboard wasn't helping them. If they were not working in their workplace, then Onboard wasn't helping them. And what we really wanted to do, and if you've heard us through these webinars over the years, you've heard us say this many times, as we focus more and more on the person and the experience of the person, what we realized is we were not delivering what people needed when they're working outside of the workplace. And so that's why we came up with the idea of Forum to tie together the inside and the outside for where people might work. We've been building up to this. Ashley mentioned that Forum has been in production for just a little bit over a year, and we've been laying the groundwork for today's announcement. So everything we've done heretofore has been focused inside of the organization. Now we're adding this extra capability that we'll be demonstrating live for outside of the organization. That does not mean in any way, shape, or form that we are turning away from inside. We are absolutely focused on managing and measuring your workplace and delivering a great experience to your employees wherever they choose to go to work. And we'll talk about how you can opt in or not to these sharing networks. That's a really important concept here also. These are not things that are forced upon you by being an AgilQuest customer. These are things that are available to you as an organization that you can choose to opt into and participate in to any level you wish. If you want to stay entirely your people, your space, fantastic. If you only want to tap into the outside market, that's okay too. So the whole foundation of Forum is set up to support you. And again, we'll talk a lot more about that in a few minutes as we get kind of into that. So that's why we built Forum. Now we're going to start off with analytics, and sometimes, starting off by talking about the data is a really interesting way to address this, because the data is often the reason why people introduce these concepts to their workplace, because they're trying to understand what's going on. You've probably heard it begins with why, right? Everything begins with why. So for many of our customers, they are keenly focused on the analytics. And so that's where we're going to start today, is we're going to talk about the new analytics that are available. Then we'll move into Forum and what changed there. If you're not familiar with analytics, it is a fully integrated business intelligence platform that exists inside of the Forum umbrella. All users have access to analytics, but they see data that is level or role appropriate. So if you're what we would call a registered user within Forum, you would see information that's relevant to a registered user. So to put things in context, I just put some sample dashboards up where an end user's dashboard might show them how many reservations does that person have? How often have they come in? What are the busy times in the locations? What are the busy days in the locations where they like to work, to help them make good decisions about where and when to go to work? As an administrator, you see a different view. You start looking at a portfolio level view and trend analysis within your space. And again, all of this is built into Forum and available to all of our Forum customers. Again, level and role specific, but it's there in Forum. It's not a separate thing that people have to add. So what's new in Forum Analytics? Well, there are some new widgets and reports, and we'll talk about those. There's some new filtering options, and I'll explain why those are important. And then there's a new data warehouse capability, and we'll go into that as well. So in terms of the new widgets, and the widgets are the things that are on the dashboard. So those dashboards that I showed you a few slides ago, what's great about those dashboards is each individual gets to define their own dashboard if they want one. They define their dashboard, they pick their widgets, they build it. It's always there for them. It's in a fully responsive design. So you're sitting on the train, you pull out your iPhone or your Android, and you can look at the analytics of your workplace on your commute into work. It's fantastic. The other thing you can do with those dashboards is publish and share them. So if you're on a team together and you're all interested in the same key metrics, if you design a dashboard that you think works really well, you can publish and share that among your team. So there's a neat little feature on the dashboards there. So some of the new widgets that are available are, the first one is a daily asset utilization widget. This one shows the total number of active assets compared to the number of assets that were reserved and the assets that were utilized on a daily basis. So there's a lot going on in this simple little picture. How many assets did I have? How many assets got booked? How many assets got used? Really interesting information as you start to look at how your space is used over time. A little bit of a different twist on it is the monthly asset utilization widget. This one shows the average number of assets compared to the average number of assets that were reserved and utilized on a monthly basis. So we're looking now at a different view of the same data across a different kind of range, and now we're looking at averages. Very useful for trends. Finally, the third new widget that's available to you is a monthly reservations check-in widget. And this shows the total number of active reservations and check-ins on a monthly basis. So this is one of the questions we get all the time. How many people came in? A, how many came in? B, where'd they go? And of course, the system can tell you both of those things. So if you already are a customer of the AgilQuest forum, these widgets are already there for you. These were pushed out. All of this happened just in the last few days and weeks. These were pushed out. So you may not have noticed them, but if you go into the analytics area of your forum and go to your dashboard widgets, you'll now see these new widgets available to you to be included in your dashboard if you choose. Similarly, there's new reports that are available in the reporting section of analytics. The first new report is something we call a person presence by month report. And what's important about this, really two things. One is you can use this either with or without what's called PII. And if that term doesn't mean anything to you, PII, it's personally identifiable information, which it's a really hot topic, particularly outside of the U.S. and even inside of the U.S. with some organizations and industries. So we could have anonymized this data automatically, so you wouldn't be able to see the PII information. But if you look at this report, you can see month by month what was each individual's percent that they came into the office out of the total number of working days that month. If you want to drill a little bit deeper, you can see by day, what are the specific days here that individuals are coming in. Handy report, easy to look at, easy to understand, again, with or without PII. And finally, this report was one specific request of one of our customers who does quite a bit of pricing in the system. And I'll talk a little more about pricing later, but everything in the system can have a price. I actually can have several prices. And they keenly needed to understand what their reservation activity was and what the cost is, or the price of each of these different reservations that was going on. So just like the widgets, these are already there, available to you if you're a forum customer if you go into analytics, and then the reports section within analytics, these three reports have been added. The updates to AgilQuest Analytics are going to come out on a very continuous basis throughout the year. So we're not going to hold back reports and widgets for major releases on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, for example. As each new widget and report is built and tested, it'll be pushed out to you. So if you're using analytics, keep your eye there, because you'll see new widgets and new reports showing up regularly throughout the year. One of the other capabilities that you'll see when you go in there is something we refer to as enhanced filtering. And because of the architecture of the data warehouse that we've put in place now, you're able to slice and dice the data on demand any way you want. So any field that's in there, that's in the system, can be used as one of these filters to help you view the data in the way that's most meaningful to you. So not only are there new reports and widgets, but there's new ways to look at the data within the widget. So if for example, you're only interested in the conference rooms in Boston that were used by managers last month, no problem. If you want to look at conference room utilization across your portfolio for the last year, regardless of who used it, no problem. Same thing for desks. So again, the data warehouse, which actually is the next slide here, gives us tremendous flexibility to deliver the data to you in the way that you want to see it. It really is the backbone that enables the advanced analytics and aggregated analysis. So the data warehouse went live about 2 weeks ago. So that is now out there and looking. It pulled in all of the history, but now it's going to continue, obviously, taking snapshots on a very continuous basis for analytics. If you're a data person, we built this on the Kimball methodology for dimensional modeling. If you're not a data person, then we used a really good industry standard model for this. I guess that's how I'll say it. And finally, what I think is great about this is this BI tool pulls data on an hourly basis from the transaction system. So obviously there are some reports that have to run out of the transaction system because they're activity-based reports. But what this means is that when you're looking at your analysis, your BI, digging deep in the data, that information is as fresh as an hour ago. So you're looking at some organizations that we talk to, and they say, well, we're going to get our utilization numbers in, and here we are in December, so we should be able to get our September numbers in pretty soon, because it's just such a laborious process to figure all that out. But with Forum and Forum Analytics, you can get that on up to the last hour, which is really amazing. So let's move on now and start talking about Forum and the new things that we've added to Forum. We've added a number of front-end improvements, and we'll talk through what those are at a fairly high level. We won't go, click by click through them. We'll get into some of the changes we did on email and calendaring. And then finally, we're going to get into sharing. And when we get into sharing, that's where I'm actually going to go live in the system, because I think that's the most interesting part to see, where we're actually now letting a user view things within their portfolio and across other portfolios. Really neat stuff. So that's where we'll get live into the system, is when we get into sharing. First off, the front end improvements. Many of our customers are using our system for permanent seat measurement and long-term reservation management. And so if you've seen some of our other presentations, we sometimes talk about a workplace maturity model as organizations go from a very assigned work environment to a very flexible work environment. And there's no right place or wrong place. It just kind of is an evolutionary process of workplace, and based on the kind of work you do and the culture of your organization, you'll find the place on that evolution that works best for you, and that's what you'll keep. Many of our customers aren't in a fully flexible environment. They're in a permanent seat, or sometimes called long-term reservation environment, but they need to know how the space is being used, how often people come in. So when you tie some of the ability that we've added here for permanent seat measurement to some of the other things that we've announced earlier this year, our open presence listener built on what's called the Play standard that we did for badge integration as people badge into buildings. That's where all of these things start coming together now, so you can get either short or long-term space studies that can be completely transparent to the end user community. So that's a neat thing in the industry, and that's part of the Forum. For those of you who are using Forum, we've also added improved keyboard navigation. If you're like me, I don't like to take my hands off the keyboard when I'm working. I'll use the keys as much as I can. So we've improved the keyboard navigation, so the more power users can navigate through the application more quickly, more easily using the keyboards. We've added some new data management capabilities, particularly in the adding and removing of data. This is another place I'll tell you to watch this space. We have one more big announcement up our sleeve this year before the end of the year, and it is in data management, and we're really excited about this. The data management capability that's coming is really going to set the standard for bulk import, update, and archive of all types of data. So there's one more big announcement from AgilQuest coming this year, and that is in the area of data management. So that's another watch this space item. And then the last of the front end improvements is we had to look really critically at privacy. Now, we've done, with this update, I didn't even mention any of the architectural changes that went in with this update, but we added enhanced security capabilities and features with the update around the methods of archival and, encryption. And where and when data is encrypted and how it's encrypted. That was improved with this last release. That's on the architectural side. On the front end side, there's privacy management for the individual. And this is, again, a really big deal, a little bit more outside of the U.S. than inside of the U.S., but at some of our university customers and even, like I mentioned, some of our healthcare customers, very concerned about individual privacy. So individuals now have the ability to determine their level of privacy in the application. And that impacts whether or not others can search for them. That impacts how their reservations may or may not be shown in the system based on their privacy management settings. So that's a nice feature there that was added as well. In the area of calendaring improvements, and this particular discussion, for this particular discussion, I'm focused on the invitee side. Obviously, there's always at least two sides to a meeting, right? There's the person who schedules the meeting and the invitee or invitees who receive the message about the meeting. And what we've done here is we've updated the method of distributing invitations to people to the latest ICS standards, and ICS is the Internet Calendaring Standard. So whether they're on Google or Outlook Exchange, they no longer will have to get the invitation and open it and save it. You've probably seen this. I see it all the time. If I book a flight or a hotel and it's on my calendar, I didn't do anything. And that's because they're using the latest ICS standards to send that. That's what Forum is doing now too. So if you receive an invitation from Forum for a meeting, it will automatically be placed on your calendar as tentative. You don't have to open it to take action on it. In your preview panel, you can see that I just took two little snips here of the same meeting where I was invited to my Google Calendar and to my Outlook calendar. And from the preview panel, I could see in Google, they say yes, maybe, no. And in Outlook, they say accept, tentative, decline, but same thing, right? So really trying to improve that experience for the invitee in calendaring. There's an obvious question there about the host. We're going to hold that one until the end about changes that are coming on the host side of the calendaring improvements. There were changes on emails as well. And on emails, what we did is we've made it so that on either an individual or an organizational level, you can opt in or out of all of the emails, any of the emails, excuse me, not all, any. You can go through the emails and say, organizationally, we never want to see this one. Or you can say, yeah, we want to see that, but then the individual gets to choose, well, I don't really need that. So really trying to, again, optimize the experience for people as they're using the system of what emails they do and do not receive. Okay, well, that gets me here to sharing, to the part that I think is certainly the most exciting part of the conversation. This is, it's not often that there's real innovation in something as old as reservations, right? But this really is a truly innovative development in the way space and services are used and shared among organizations. It really delivers an enhanced experience, giving people choices inside and outside of their organization. I'll emphasize one more time before we dive too far into this, that this is an opt-in or out process. You don't have to participate in this if you don't want to at the organizational level or at the individual level. You can choose the level of participation that is appropriate for you. So sharing really is something that is open to each individual. So let me go ahead and we'll talk a little bit about Forum. Now, if you're not familiar with Forum, This is what it looks like. I'm logged in here into something called the McCown Consulting. Whoops, sorry. I'm logged into McCown Consulting. McCown is a fictitious consulting firm based loosely on a place I used to work that is in a building where our space is very limited, where my colleagues tend to get the space before I want it, and I have to look for new and other ways to get the space that is available or may or may not be available to me. So let's say I want to have a meeting for today. And if you're not familiar with Forum, it's a very visual, very engaging application. I would hit search by calendar, and as is so often the case, the space that I want to book is not available to me. Forum does help individuals. You can see pictures, you can see capacity, you can see schedules, you can see all of the different important aspects of information for an individual that will help them find the space that they need at any given time. What you can see here is I wanted to have a meeting at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and all of the rooms that I wanted to book that were available to me are booked up for the day. So what I can do from my forum is I can see my forum, McCown Consulting, is in a building called Riverfront Plaza. I can see my landlord's space here. I can also see my co-working and collaboration forum. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Riverfront Plaza to see what spaces might be available to me there. So from the drop down, I clicked Riverfront Plaza. Now I'm looking at my landlord's space, and my landlord has 2 rooms. One of them is, actually they're both available at 3. I've got the James River room, which is the one I typically use, the Riverfront conference room. What's interesting about this is the landlord puts a price on this because at Riverfront Plaza, that space is available to the public. But because I'm a tenant of the building, I don't have to pay that, even though there is a price there. They don't charge me that. If I want to book this for my team call, it's as simple as that. I put in the name of my meeting, say that I'm going to do, how many people are going to attend, and I've now booked that from the same application. All that I did is I switched up here from McCown Consulting, which was my internal space, to Riverfront Plaza, which is my landlord's location. So it's just that easy for me to switch from one place to another to book the space that I need. Now, these examples that we're talking about here, and they really are just examples. The first one that I just kind of showed you is something we call the connected community. And that connected community is, again, it's the idea of an organization that is kind of tightly knit together. And a good example of that, as I just showed you, is the landlord building. We're often overcrowded in the space that we have, but the landlord has excess capacity outside of our building, perhaps common space downstairs, and I'm able to go down and book that space through this platform. Another example of a connected community that we see with our customers is something we call a university model. And the university model is, we're probably all familiar with this, the university is comprised of individual colleges. So you might have the School of Business, School of Leadership, Liberal Arts, Education, et cetera. And each of those schools, the students there can participate in the space and amenities to the individual school and to the university, but not necessarily across. Someone at the College of Liberal Arts might not be able to book space in the School of Business unless those 2 schools also decided to share space in that way, which is something else supported by the system. So these 2 examples, and I really want to underscore that, are just examples of ways that this sharing capability can be applied to space, to services, to communities around. These are two real-life examples that our customers are doing today, as is the next one, which I'll talk about. But if you look at this and you think, gosh, that sharing capability, I could use that in a different way, we'd love to talk about it, because we think that this is just the tip of the iceberg about what sharing brings to our market. The last one that we're going to talk about, and that I'll show live again, is the announcement that AgilQuest has partnered with a global business center group that offers space all around the world, 700 business centers, almost 800 actually, worldwide business centers that are available automatically to you as someone who participates in the AgilQuest forum. So again, if I were to come back to my McCown Consulting homepage, the example I gave previously was that I'm in my building, I need to book space, all of my internal space is full, but I'm looking for a meeting today. In this case, I happen to be in Central Virginia. I need to be up in Northern Virginia tomorrow for a meeting with some people coming in from Washington and from Maryland. So instead of choosing the Riverfront Plaza, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to choose the collaboration and co-working forum. And from the collaboration and co-working forum, that switches over. And now you can see I've got a completely different view. And this time I'm actually now looking at, there's not all 700 plus are loaded in here yet. There's only a few dozen in here yet. We're adding most of them over the next 2 weeks that are available to the people who want to participate in this. So I tend to work in Arlington when I do go up to DC, so that already was set for me. And if I search for space, there's this one business center in Arlington that I've worked at a few times, but I know my colleagues are coming in from other areas. So if I zoom this map out a little bit, I think, yep, here they are. There are more business centers up towards Bethesda and in and around DC. You can see some of the pin will turn blue. You're probably used to this as like what you might see in a hotel as you move around and look at the different hotel options that you could see geographically. So all of these different business centers are available to me. If I want to see the spaces that are available in any one of them, I could just click the available assets and see the spaces and of course the prices, because this is space for rent on a short-term basis. I'm going to go ahead and go to the space that I typically use, which is this one, up in the building on Fairfax Drive in Arlington, room 101. When I click that room to book it, what you'll see is I'm taken to more information about the room. If there were more pictures, there could be a whole carousel of pictures here, the outside of the building, the cafe, other common areas, etc. All would be here. I get all the information I need about the room. I can see its schedule, its policies, its price, its location on the map. I can even look at a floor plan. For the business centers that load floor plans in, you can look on a floor plan and see where that is. I can see the amenities of the room. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and book that room for tomorrow afternoon from 2. No, actually, I don't need it 2 to 3. Sorry, I need it from 2 to 4. And now you'll notice the price has just gone up. It's $35 an hour. The price went up to $70 an hour, so it tells me what I'm in for. And I go ahead and I book it. And just like that now, again, from one system, I've looked at my internal spaces. I've looked at my landlord space who's shared space with me. And now I've looked at this global network of business centers with which AgilQuest has partnered. So that what we're really trying to do is, as we said at the outset, is knock down the barriers to collaboration, take space out of the equation, or the problem of finding space out of the equation. I mentioned one other big announcement. So there's the data one coming, and then I talked about calendaring. Early next quarter, there's going to be another major announcement coming out of AgilQuest very early next quarter, fundamentally changing the way in which we integrate with calendars, really driving to the level of integration that we have with Onboard direct server-to-server calendaring integration, full two-way experience for people. They can book in either system, either our system or their calendaring system, and the whole platform is integrated with your calendaring architecture. So a lot more coming on that in about 6 weeks, I guess is where I'll leave it. So with that, Ashley, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Torrance. And I guess you're just proving that flexibility and the point you made at the beginning about people working outside of the office. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have had some questions roll in. Please don't forget to enter them in the Q&A panel, and we will try to get to them. So I'm going to kind of start up with the end here. We're talking about co-working spaces. The question was, can we control which users, which of our employees, I guess, have access to the co-working spaces?
Yeah, you completely can. It's down to the person level. So there's a couple levels here. At the organizational level, you decide, do we want to participate in this exchange or not? And you can say yes or no. If you say yes, then you have the control to say to which of our employees do we want to extend this invitation. And there are important words there. It's an invitation to the user. The user doesn't have to accept it because there's a whole series of opt-in choices here. The short answer is yes. You at the organizational level can control who at the user level has access. And if the user chooses not to participate, then they can do that. They don't have to opt in.
Great. Thank you. Let's jump over kind of into the landlord space. We've had several questions that pretty much are kind of asking the same thing, but essentially you've talked about the models and you said these are just examples, but what about as a corporation, as an individual organization, can I share my space out with others even though I'm not a landlord or a university?
Yeah, so this was actually the very first customer we had on Forum wanted to do that, and now we finally can. Absolutely. So what they wanted to do, they were a small company in Manhattan, and they had fantastic office space right by the World Trade Center location. And they said that our business partners, our colleagues, our clients, they're always coming to New York, and they always ask us, they call, hey, can we use a conference room? Can we use a conference room? And what they wanted to do was just create them as users in their forum, set up the rules and the controls, and what you can do is you can set it up on a requestable basis with a notification process and approval process for the rooms. So what they're able to do is when their clients are coming up to Manhattan, if they need a place to work, they can go to this company's forum now and request a desk, request a conference room, and work from there. We're doing the same thing actually at our office in Virginia. We built out a floor of our building that we call Agile Space, and we're making that available to our partners as well. So you don't, this is why I think that sharing model, those were just examples to kind of get the juices flowing. It's easy to think about a landlord and the amenities of a landlord. But if you're a smaller organization or a different type of organization and you want to share among your community, absolutely. That's exactly what sharing enables you to do.
Sure, and I guess you could also extend that as a way to generate additional revenue from your unutilized space as well, right?
Yeah, so revenue is a funny word, right? Because that's what we thought. Back to that one example of again, real life example, so I don't have to, it's not hypothetical. We thought they were going to want to charge for the use of their space, which they can. The forum obviously supports that. You saw pricing throughout. And even the landlord in Riverfront Plaza, they charge the public, but they don't charge the tenants. What they defined revenue as was not revenue from space, but revenue from enhanced collaboration. So think about this as a way to drive collaboration, which is another way to get to revenue. If you can drive better collaboration among your business partners and the people you're working with, then that gets you to revenue in a different way. So it's yes both ways. It's yes, you can charge for the use of the space if you choose, and yes, you can use this to drive and foster collaboration within your network.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. As a landlord, it seems this would be useful for our tenants to also use the forum for managing their private space. Can they use our account, our landlord account, to manage their internal space, or how would that work?
Oh, interesting question. Actually, yes. So what you can do, and we're doing this. This is another one we're actually doing. We're doing this with a company, a large REIT, and what they're doing is they're creating a forum for their common amenities that anyone in the building can access, and they're using this as kind of a tenant attraction and retention tool. So not only can the individual tenants get access to the common space, but they can choose to get their own forum under the landlord's umbrella that they can use to manage their internal space. So it's a benefit to it's kind of like that example I gave with McCown in that case, where Riverfront could have been the organization that got McCown the forum, and then Riverfront then would actually be able to see the aggregated information about how their building is being used, not just their common space. So this is a tool that the landlord can use to really help with attraction and retention of tenants through common amenities and value-added services by giving them a tool like this, access to a tool like this.
Cool. It looks like people are already coming up with their ideas for how to use this, but here's another example. I have a client that's a state and local government. They want to use office space as a way to attract companies to their jurisdiction. The idea is to share some of the county spaces with target companies as an incentive to locate there. How might this work?
Exactly. It's beautiful. So what you would do in that case is you create the forum, and you would put the county space that we're trying to offer out to these individuals, and then there's an invitation process that you can invite those companies to participate in your forum, so they can actually come in as users and book the space when they're in and out in the area. So, if you think about it, actually it's a great idea. If you think about it, a company starts off small, they start to grow. That you put them in an environment where they get flexible access to collaborative or workspaces when they need it as they're growing, as a way to lower their operational costs. I think that's fantastic. Kudos to that government for thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a business incubator of sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm going to move away from that a little bit. I'm an architect, and we've been looking for less expensive and more accurate ways to perform space studies for a client we're working with. Can you tell me a little more about if this is possible?
Sure. So the easiest one to do, I think, is back to that slide where we were talking about permanent seat management, or sometimes called long-term reservation management, but most people think of it as permanent seat management. If you put the seat assignments into the forum and then connect your building access system, your badging system into forum, and post those messages through the thing that we call the presence listener. And if anyone uses Castle or Linnell or Honeywell for their badging, those should be compliant systems where they could post directly to us without any, just out of the box, without any changes. Then you could start immediately gathering information for those short-term utilization studies. And then you can grow from there, because then, a short-term utilization study turns into where is our excess capacity, and then it turns into how can we use it differently. And then you get into conversations about space sharing or hoteling, or even, as you mentioned earlier, revenue from excess capacity.
Sure. Great. All right. I'd love to get access to your functionality, but want to control the experience. Can we integrate your logic into our application?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I think we did a webinar on maybe one of our summer webinars where we talked about our API layer. And the API layer is still the same. We've added to that. This is actually another thing I didn't mention earlier. We've added a development environment up at AWS where this lives. So we've worked with a few customers doing this now where they've written directly to our API, and they've wanted to. It's been a mobile app, is what they've tended to do so far anyway. Is expose certain aspects of our functionality, but through their mobile app user experience view. So what they do is they just tap into our API layer. Love to talk to people about that. But yeah, we do have an open RESTful API and a developer sandbox available for people to do that, because this obviously wasn't a broad product demo, but I'm sure people noticed, hey, that map looks like Google Maps and the pictures and the other things and how that's all done. We fully know we can't do everything, and it's part of our strategy to allow people to tap into the forum to expose the functionality that they want to their end users.
Great. Question: Does this come with any kind of hardware or digital signage?
Does it come with it? No, it doesn't come. We are not a hardware manufacturer, right? We do have partnerships. I mentioned the one with Intel and this market-ready solution. So what the market-ready solution is a way for people to, it's actually a way for Intel to sell digital signage that includes the forum software. So we, AgilQuest, don't necessarily sell the software, but we have partners like Intel, Meeting Machines, ASI, and others who do sell the hardware. And that's something that it is fully integrated. It's a turnkey solution if you want it. If you're on an iOS platform, we actually do have iOS-based digital signage as well. So we have Windows and iOS-based digital signage, and it can be done totally as a turnkey solution through our partners, absolutely.
Great. That makes it easy. Well, that is all the questions that have come in, and I think that we have definitely loaded this hour, so I really appreciate your time. Torrance, this is really great. I'm excited about all the upcoming announcements you've mentioned. So for everybody on the line, thank you so much. It was great to see so many new faces, as well as some of our old friends and partners and clients interested to see where we're going with the forum. If you do have additional questions, please reach out. We are always happy to answer or set up a demo that would be more personalized to your organization's needs. And with that, keep an eye on your inbox for any of the 2019 webinars and the announcements coming up. And I hope you all have a safe and happy holiday season from all of us here at AgilQuest. We will talk to you soon. Have a good one.